The Shadow Priest can melt your face in single target AOE and clip damage at a top level for only a fraction of the autistic prowess it used to take in Wrath of the Lich King. Of course, I am too autistic to do fractions. These are your talents. There is pretty much no change you can go for here. I could sit here for 20 hours and break down whether you should move 1 point from here to here for a little magic resistance, but it hardly matters. Just take whatever. For prying glyphs, we're gonna take the glyph of Mind Flay for 10% boom boom, Shadow Ward Death for a cooldown reset during the execute phase, and Shadow Ward Pain for another 10% boom boom. For major glyphs, we're gonna take the Inner Fire glyph to be tankier, Spirit Tap for mana, and Fade because all the other ones are even more useless. And finally, for minor glyphs, we're gonna take Shadow Fiend. It is the only one remotely useful. The other two, just take whatever you like, they are all useless. Now, for your stats, you first wanna get your hit cap of 17%. Thanks to Twisted Fate, your spirit also counts towards your hit, so you wanna take that over hit rating if you can't. It's slightly better because it gives you a little bit of mana regen. Then you go for Intellect, which is by far your best stat. You get spell power, you get crit, and mana, intellect over anything. Then Haste, but only if you go for exactly these values. I'm gonna leave a chart here because it's kinda complex. In a nutshell, you wanna hit exactly 18.74% haste, 24.97%, 30%, 31.26%, or 41.67%. That's your soft cap. They give almost no return in between, so reforge accordingly. Then Mastery, then Crit. It is not a shocker that you're going for Crit at last because you are mostly dot damage, but yeah, I guess Mind Blast or something, I don't know. Okay, now we are gonna talk about your single target rotation, which luckily got a little simpler for Cataclysm. Before we start, remember to put all your buffs on you. We're gonna take Inner Fire at all times because it gives you a boom boom. Your Shadow Form, of course, you can't forget the Shadow Form. It makes you look cooler. Power Word Fortitude is your stamina buff, and Vampiric Embrace is free heals. You can't go wrong with that. Anyway, for the single target rotation, first we drop a Shadow Word Pain, and remember that your Mind Flay is gonna refresh it. Then we drop Devouring Plague and Vampiric Touch. These two dots we gotta refresh manually though. Then you do Mind Blast on cooldown. This is a very big boom boom spell. If the target is below 25% HP, we can Shadow Ward Death as it has execute damage, plus remember it has no cooldown with the glyph, so you can spam it over and over and over. And finally Mind Flay, it is your filler spell after all the previous spells are off. Every Mind Flay not only refreshes your Shadow Ward Pain, but it also gives you a stack of Evangelism. It is another damage buff. You get stacked for a little bit later, I'm gonna explain to you. Now for your AOE rotation, remember that the Shadow Priest is very good at cleaving damage, aka 2 or 3 mobs at the same time. And this is your rotation for that. In that situation, you wanna drop a Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch on each one of the targets, and then you look at the one that has the highest HP and you drop a Devouring Plague on them. Ideally, you wanna drop Mind Blast on cooldown and Mind Flay on them as a filler, alternating in between targets unless you have a boss mob, in which case you probably wanna focus the boss. If you are a super tryhard, you can do this with 4 mobs, but let me warn you, it is really tight, the timing to do it well. It is pretty hard to execute. I personally never do it, but it is mathematically better than AOEing still. However, if you are fighting more than 4 mobs, or if the mobs are way too squishy to survive enough to dot them, then all you gotta do is Mind Sear. That's it, that's your rotation, that's how it works. Yep, you know what, I'm fine with that. Now we gotta cover your 2 main cooldowns. First of all, you got the Shadow Fiend. It's the same as in Wrath of the Lich King. You just summon like a monster from somewhere and like it does a bunch of damage, and every time it hits something it gives you mana. Pop it on cooldown, it's as simple, it's good. Second, this is the more complex Dark Evangelism. This is how you consume your Evangelism stacks. Okay, realistically you wanna pop it on cooldown, but you wanna time refreshing all your dots like Devouring Plague just before you pop it, so you get your max value on it. Extra points if you pop your Volcanic Potion and your trinkets at the same time. That's all your DPS cooldowns. Yes, they are not a lot, but you make up for it in all your utility cooldowns. We start with Dispersion. This removes CC, makes you immune to CC, reduces your damage taken by 90, yes, I said that right, 90%, and you generate 36% of your mana from it. That is basically a free mana type totem, okay? What's the catch? You can't cast spells when you're on it. But you can right click it off early, so you can end it before and you can come back to DPSing, so this is really good for surviving a bunch of damage that goes on in a fight randomly or as a quick mana refill or something. But you have a lot more cooldowns. Mass Dispel gets rid of magic effects on your raid. Dispel Magic is just the same but for 2 dispels in one target. Cure Disease dispels diseases and water is wet. Fear Ward makes the target immune to fear. Divine Hymn is a busted AOE heal for emergencies, but you do have to swap out of Shadow Form to do it, and that's a little bit of a bummer. And Hymn of Hope is mana generation for the raid. Psychic Scream is an AOE fear. Shackle Undead stuns any undead until it takes damage. Fade temporarily gets you off the threat table. It doesn't reduce your actual threat, okay? This is a common misconception. It only makes mobs not target you for the duration. Like, imagine it as an anti-taunt. What would be an anti-taunt? Maybe like a compliment? Well, that. And finally, Leap of Fate pulls a raid member into you. If you stand at just the right angle and you pop it, you can kill somebody off a ledge. I guess you can also use it to save people or something boring like that. For gems, we're gonna take the Brilliant Inferno Ruby every time for intellect. Yes, even out of color sockets. And for meta gem, we are gonna take Burning Shadow Spirit Diamond for even more intellect. I bet you are gonna notice a pattern now. Okay, we're gonna talk about the professions. You can take tailoring for intellect, blacksmithing to get sockets for gems with intellect, alchemy so your flask gives you more intellect, enchanting so your ring gets more intellect, or inscription to get an intellect shoulder enchant. That's also gonna save you farming the Terrasane reputation for it. And for consumables, this is the same as almost any caster. We are gonna take the Severed Sagefish Head for food, Flask of the Draconic Mind, and we are gonna chuck Volcanic Potions alongside our cooldowns or trinkets for maximum intellect. And here is a list of all your best in-slot enchants. You can check it out in the description. Overall, the Shadow Priest is one of the most popular casters in the game. Not popular as in the most played, but popular in the sense as everybody wants you in the raid. So this is one of my most recommended classes in Cataclysm. Gameplay is fun, numbers are good, utility is godly. But if you do not want to step on a rusty Lego and catch the devouring plague of tetanus, subscribe to this channel and join the Discord, and thank you for watching!